You are watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, go to rpurham.com or follow me on all social media platforms and subscribe at RPURHAM. Thanks. See you over there. Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Permanent Associates. I'm your host, Randy Purham. Hey, I know y'all probably missed me most of last week. It's crazy schedule last week. Got a crazy schedule this week too, and next week. But we're getting it in. But hey, wanted to jump right in because I got a very special guest with us, Brian Reisinger. Y'all know who he is by now, most of you anyways. But for the new audience, we're going to start all over again just for you. We got Brian Reisinger. He's the author of Land Rich, Cash Poor, My Family's Hope, and the Untold Story of the Disparaging American Farmer. He grew up on a family farm in Sauk County, Wisconsin, and lives to tell the hidden stories of rural America. A columnist and consultant, Reisinger worked with his father from the time he could walk. Before entering the worlds of business, journalism, and public policy, he has been published by USA Today, Newsweek, Yahoo News, the Milwaukee Journal, Sentinel, USA Today, Network, PBS, Wisconsin Public Radio, Wisconsin's Life, The Daily Yonder, Real Clear Politics, The Hill, the Wisconsin State Journal, the Cap Times, Saving Country Music, and many other news, policy, outdoor, and cultural publications. Reisinger's writing has won awards from the National Society of Newspaper Columnists, first place in the Seven Hills Literary Contest, a Solus Award, and more. He lives with his wife and daughter and serves as president and chief content officer of Midwestern-based Platform Communications, splitting his time between a small town in Northern California and the family farm in southern Wisconsin. Land Rich, Cash Poor is his first book. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing to some and presenting to others, Mr. Brian Reisinger. Hey, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Randy. Good to be with you.
Yeah,
thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Welcome back. It's been a few months since you've been on, so give us a quick update as to what you've been up to.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a busy time. First thing I should do is tell your viewers, like I told you, that don't worry, everyone, I'm not driving right now. I'm connecting with Randy actually from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I happen to be traveling this week, and so anyway, we're pulled over before we go up into the mountains. So it's so good to be with everybody, and the latest is that we have been traveling the country talking with people about the problem of the disappearing American farmer and what some of the solutions may be, and sharing our family stories along the way. And it was really exciting this past week. The new paperback edition of Land Rich, Cash Poor came out, and it's just another opportunity for us to be spreading the word about these issues and having these conversations. So I'm very grateful for it, and it's an exciting time.
Oh, awesome. Hey, congratulations on the release of the paperback version. I wanted to ask you, you just mentioned about talking to disparate farmers and everything else. From where I'm at in Texas here, anyways, I see a kind of like a boom in the industry due to the screwworm pandemic that's going on right now, and there's a cutoff from Mexico importing cattle and everything else. So they're kind of like creating an uptick, if you will, in the farming industry in Texas and in Louisiana and the southern border states. it's creating that uptick of raising cattle and everything else, and now American consumers are like, yeah, I don't trust, getting my stuff from, another country right now. So I don't know on your end of the spectrum or in your neck of the woods, are you seeing the same thing, or it's kind of been just stagnant? Talk to us about that.
It's such a good question because it is something that is an opportunity for American farmers and ranchers to show what American grown beef can do for our economy. And so you're right, from that standpoint, it is an opportunity. The way I describe it is that it's a short-term opportunity in the sense that, at the end of the day, America still gets so much of its food from other countries, and we still have so many vulnerabilities to our agriculture industry. Now, we have the best agriculture industry, farmers and ranchers in the world. We can overcome the challenges, but we have to be really clear-eyed about the challenges. So in the short term, there's an opportunity for farmers and ranchers in America to fill the gap because of the Mexican screwworm, wiping out cattle in Mexico. Long term, it reminds us of the vulnerabilities, and a couple of vulnerabilities. The first would be if the screwworm does spread from Mexico up into America in a meaningful way, it can begin to infect our food supply, and that would be really problematic. But it also reminds us of all the other types of food supply vulnerabilities that we have. Because we've been losing farms at a rate of 45,000 per year for the past century, a lot of our food is more expensive than it ought to be because it's hard to get the food from the farm gate to the dinner table. You have one big distribution center go down, it craters the supply and increases the price. And so with beef, there's a short-term opportunity, but we have to be careful that our own beef supply doesn't get infected and hurt our farmers even more. And all across our food economy, we still have those vulnerabilities that the more farms we wipe out, the harder it's going to be on all American families.
Yeah, you make a great point there of the lopsidedness of the availability of farms, because that plays into a supply and demand role there. In terms of getting farmers to have not only the product available, but getting that product, making it available to the consumers, and you have a scarcity or a low inventory of cattle, chickens, whatever, then people are fighting for it, and they're willing to pay higher prices to get that product because that's something that they want.
That's right.
It's interesting because Peter Navarro, he raised this same concern, similar concern rather, about the courts slapping down President Trump's tariffs last week, and saying that if the courts keep these tariffs in place, keep this injunction in place on the tariffs, then it's going to hurt the American economy, because we see the job reports, we see the economic reports coming in saying, hey, the tariffs are actually working. So if they're putting an injunction on that, how does that, I guess you could say, impact the farming industry in terms of getting product from overseas versus just keeping their stuff homegrown, here in the United States?
It's such a good question. I think Peter Navarro probably had a wide variety of reasons to make the comments that he made. When I zero in on the farm part of that, the reality is that farmers need us to strike trade deals that are fair to American farmers and workers. They need us to be tougher than we have been in the 90s and 2000s, where we were kind of giving away the store. So they need us to be tougher, and tariffs can be a tool to get tougher. They can be a negotiating tool to get tougher and make sure that these deals are going to benefit American farmers. And if we get that right, it may be able to benefit American workers and others more so as well. And at the same time, you're right to ask about the costs. There are risks for farmers. If trade disputes spin out of control and other countries begin retaliating too much, that can make it harder for farmers to sell their goods abroad, and also it can increase the cost of goods that farmers need to produce. So if we can keep moving forward with striking deals that put family farms first, there's a little bit of momentum for a while. The UK, Japan, the administration was striking trade deals with these organizations, with these other countries. If we can continue moving forward with tough negotiations leading to family farms being put first in trade deals, it can be a good situation. But the court situation right now is really kind of holding that up, and we're kind of whiplashing back and forth between, are we going to have tariffs or aren't we? And that's a really challenging situation to kind of be stuck in the middle for the American farmer.
I want to ask, so with are you as a farmer and in this industry, are you in favor of having tariffs, or you rather not be bothered with the tariffs and have a straight line economic flux going on? How do you feel about it?
Yeah. The tariffs as a negotiating tool can be a good thing for farmers. That's why you see a lot of farmers supporting the traditionally supporting President Trump's trade agenda, even though it can cause risks. So the tariffs, as long as they're being used as a negotiating tool to have tougher negotiations and trade deals that are more fair to our family farms, they can be a good thing.
Okay, makes sense. It makes sense to me. Like I say, it's like you said, it's a negotiating tool. I tell people it's a negotiating tool. It's not like it's something that's going to be set in stone forever and a day type of thing. And so they're like, well, yeah, but it's creating, an imbalance in the markets. It's creating this, like you said, this accordion effect, in the economy. And it's like, yeah, but you see the trend going downward though, with the pricing. It may spike up a second there, but only for a few days, and then it comes right back down. I'm looking at that in terms of the gas prices. Going to the grocery store here, we have HEB down here. Going to HEB, and I see a very drastic difference, and comparison to a few months back to now, where a carton of eggs. I eat a lot of eggs, so I pay attention to the prices on eggs. So I'm like, oh man, I can actually get 2 cartons of eggs this week, type of thing. Because there's a drop. It was I want to say back in, I want to say it was February. I think it was February. It was either January or February, late January, early February time frame. A carton of eggs, 18, not the dozen with 12, but the 18. It was $7 and some change back then. Now it's dropped down to $3-4, and some change. And it's like, yeah, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. But I remember back in the day, it was like $2 for a carton of eggs. But hey, whatever, Yeah, inflation, and the spiking of pricing over the years. I want to ask you, with that going on, with the spiking of grocery prices hitting only certain products in the market, do farmers have to say, you know what, I'm gonna go with the national trend or local trend of pricing, or do they have to set their prices based on their inventory to balance out their books?
That's a great question. One of the reasons that our farmers are having such a challenging time for decades is because in most cases, they don't set their prices. In most cases, our agriculture products are what's called a commodity, where it's traded on the commodity markets. The trading of those goods on the commodity markets really set the price of corn, soybeans, all kinds of different things are priced that way. Now, the farmers that you see at local farmers markets and that have other ways to sell goods locally, they can then set some of their own prices. And there are times where the farmers markets, by the way, are just as affordable or more affordable than other sources of food because of the way our food supply is vulnerable. So it's becoming more of a mix where some crops and products farmers grow, they are able to set their price in a way that's fair to them in the market. And then there are some crops and products where they aren't able to. And it's a big challenge to work through those kinds of situations.
Yeah, I can imagine. You brought up a great point. I didn't think about the commodities market, the stock exchange and all that, where you do see corn going for like $6.70 a bushel or something like that. You're like, why are they trading corn? But you're right, they do that. And so, but like I said, here in Texas, you go out in the outside of Austin, there are some farmer markets that do happen on some weekends. Matter of fact, there's one tomorrow evening that I'm going to with one of my candidates. The people don't understand that driving on a road that says FM I'm like, you do know that means farm to market road, right? And they're like, what? That's why does it say? Why does it mean that? It's like because the farms are along this road and the markets, in the town, so they bring their goods there to say, oh, that makes sense now. Like, whoo, you slow. but with that being said, the farmers there are bringing their stuff to a local market to set up a little canopy somewhere and sell their goods. The pricing that we see, it is like to your point, it is usually cheaper because it's inventory or it's goods that they kind of like have to get rid of. So it's kind of like your bottom dollar pricing because it's like they couldn't get it up all to a processing plant or to a shipping company or what have you in time. So it's like, okay, well, I'll just take it down the street and sell it real fast and try to make something off of it. And to that, my question to you is the quality of the food better or the same or worse? I don't know. Everybody wants to know that one.
Usually, if you can buy food directly from a farmer, either or through another local source, whether it's at a farmer's market, or a online marketplace, or just going down the road to a farmer selling beef, or a local butcher shop, or a grocery store that'll carry local goods. If you can do that, the quality is higher. It tastes better. You can notice the difference between a tomato that was grown in the ground nearby versus one that wasn't. It's healthier for you as well. And increasingly, it used to be back in the day, it used to be that the food prices at a farmer's market or another local source was way more expensive than what you might find from our national supply chain. That's not always the case anymore because of the way that, as we've talked about, Randy, you've done such an amazing job on your show covering the vulnerabilities to our food supply. As we've wiped out our farms and our supply chain has become more vulnerable, the price of that food has gone up. And we saw that with eggs, like you said. We're seeing that with beef. All kinds of threats to our food supply shoot prices up in the air. Yeah. And so what that means is you can kind of pick and choose, and not everybody can get all their food from a local farmer. But if you pick and choose, you can get certain types of produce or certain types of meat from a local farmer, buy what you need to elsewhere, and you can have just as affordable as a household budget because food is getting more expensive, and local farmers can sometimes cut you a deal.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I tend to try to support the farmers, the local farmers, and stay away from the store. But the convenience factor is just, and then not knowing when they're going to show up because they announce it like the day before. It's not like they advertise it like a week out type of thing. So it's very difficult these days. But I want to.
It is, and I always. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I always tell people, we can't necessarily get all of our food from a local farmer's market, and we also can't expect people to shop 13 different places for their groceries. Right. So what I say is if every consumer buys what they need to, but find some kind of way to support a local farmer. Again, maybe your grocery store carries local goods because some of them will. Yeah. Or maybe you stop off at a farmer's market for some of your produce. Or maybe you stop by your local butcher shop because they have meat from local farmers. If everyone takes just some kind of a step toward farmers, if everyone took one of those steps with their groceries each week, we could all make a small adjustment that could have a huge impact. So we don't all have to buy all of our food from the Sunday farmer's market.
Yeah. No, I agree. Brian, I want to jump into your book while we got a couple minutes left here. Land Rich, Cash Poor. Folks, we've been talking about, the farming industry, how to buy food, where to buy food, and all that good stuff. But we want to talk about the other side of it, how the destitution of the farming industry. Brian, tell us about your book and the impetus behind it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the book really goes back to something I've been carrying around my whole life. I grew up working with my dad the time I could walk, and I remember people driving into the driveway saying this farm sold, that farm went under, and I wondered why that was. So I knew our way of life was disappearing, but I didn't know anything about it as a little kid. As I pursued my writing career off the farm, I realized that we had an economic and political system that was leaving our farmers behind, our family farmers behind. So with this book, I wanted to answer that question: why are farms disappearing? So we've explored and investigated all the hidden areas of history that are driving the disappearance of the American farmer. What's the impact on our food and our national security, mental health, all kinds of issues, economy, culture. And we wove that with my family's story. So along with exploring these issues, we tell stories of survival from my family from the Great Depression on up through today, with weather that blesses and threatens, and farmland accidents, and all the economic upheaval that our country's been facing here in farm country.
Yeah. Awesome. And Brian, I gotta ask you, with that, I see that there's also a trend of people getting back into the farming industry. Just a few years ago, you couldn't get a person to go work on a farm. You couldn't even have that conversation with them. So from your purview, what's changed? What's getting people to get back into wanting to work the fields and everything else?
Well, people are caring more than ever about where their food comes from. And that means that more consumers out there who are buying their food are open to buying it from a local farmer. And it means that more people want to get close to the land as well in some cases. Yeah. I think it's due to many things. I think COVID was a big part of it. COVID kind of awakened people to the risks of our food supply. They were dealing with higher prices while our farmers couldn't sell their goods because that supply chain was locked up. Yeah. I also think that COVID kind of showed people how some work and some life can be mobile, and they don't have to do everything in the city. And so I think that there's a big resurgence right now in people caring about where their food comes from and wanting to live close to the land. And I think those are good things for our country. Mm-hmm. And I think it's why you're seeing that interest. And ultimately, we need people to be willing to work the land and carry things forward, including young people. And I think you're seeing a comeback, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I also would contribute that the deportations is probably playing a factor too, but I don't know.
Yeah, it may have an impact on the workforce front.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Brian, tell people where they can follow you and support you, sir.
Absolutely. Well, Landridge Cash Pour, as we said, has its new paperback edition out this week. You can find Landridge Cash Pour on Amazon, anywhere else you buy books online, also in bookstores nationwide. As for me, you can find me on X at Brian J. Reisinger. That's Brian, Brian J as in James, Reisinger, Reisinger. Or you can find me on my website at brian-reisinger.com. We got all kinds of information on there. I do answer the emails when people send through. That's a good way to get in touch with me directly if you'd like. And I just appreciate anybody who picks up the book or spreads the word on these issues and tries to shed light on what's going on in our country.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt. Brian, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Be safe on the road. Enjoy the Smoky Mountains, and I wish I was there right now. But the weather down here is getting better. It's getting cooler now, so I'm good with it. So, hey, be safe, and right. Catch you soon. Be safe out there.
Thank you so much, Randy. You take care.
You too. God bless. Ladies and gentlemen.
Right, bye-bye.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was Brian Reisinger. Hey, we get into talking about the farming industry and what's going on, some updates there. As you know, like the Screwworm deal, a lot of people probably don't understand what that is, and and what's going on with that. I'll give you a brief overview of that real quick. So the screwworm is it's generated from this particular screwworm fly, right? And the fly lays eggs on the wound of the cattle, and when the larva starts to hatch, they burrow, they burrow themselves down into the wound and spreads throughout the body of the cattle down into the body of the cattle, and makes the cattle sick, and they subsequently either die or they be very, very much not worth eating anymore. So farmer has to go out there and kill it and all that good stuff. So that's a brief overview. You can look it up, research it, if you want to be scientific-y and all of that, then there you go. But outside of that, to my earlier point, although I was joking, but not joking, people are getting back into wanting to work on farms, get into farming because of the deportations. And it's like, okay, there's nobody to work these fields, there's nobody to work the farms, there's no all of that right now, or there's a low employment of these sectors. So my food supply is in jeopardy, is under threat. So maybe I need to get out there and start my own farm or go work at a farm, so that way I can secure my food supply. And there's different compensation ways. You don't necessarily have to get paid in money. You can get paid in a pound of bacon, a pound of meat, stuff like that, a carton of eggs, whatever. I've seen that. It's a bartering system. And a lot of people forget about the bartering system. But that does happen, and that still occurs to this very day. So don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be surprised if you find that your neighbor, your family member, your friend is moonlighting on somebody's farm on one of these weekends or during the week or in the evenings, harvesting, crops, harvesting, food and everything else, and they're bringing back, a trunk full of bushels of, corn and other items, and they throw it into their deep freezer and everything else. Don't be surprised, because that is a trend right now. That is a trending industry. So, I mean, yeah, you can still go to the grocery store and get the goods that you want, out of convenience, like I do. It's just very much convenient for me to do that. But when I do go past a market, I do stop when I can, if I can, and see what they got, because number one, it could be cheaper. It usually is cheaper, as we was just discussing how some farmers, they can't get their products to a grocery store. They also have like a consignment type of thing, where they may bring a truckload of tomatoes, bananas, or whatever the case, and take it to a local grocery store, an actual box chain grocery store, and say, hey, I got these products, let me sell it here. We split profits, or we split the cost, whatever the case is. However they contract that out, and that's what they do. So you'll see where it says locally made or locally sourced, type of thing. That's because that is a local farmer that is contracting with that grocery store to sell their products, to get it out the field, so it doesn't spoil, rot, whatever the case is. So same thing with meat. And so I implore you and encourage you all to start thinking alternative ways of getting your resources, your consumables, because the supply chain right now, it is under attack. And a lot of people don't understand that, the supply chain, the way a lot of the stuff works, is coming in from overseas. Never mind the tariffs. The tariffs that's a temporary Mox Nix thing. That's just dealing with pricing and negotiating and whatnot. But I'm talking about the actual movement of product is under threat. When you have countries like China, India, Russia, the BRICS alliance, you hear me talk about that before. The BRICS alliance, they actually have a monopoly on a lot of the things that we get as Americans in the United States. They have a monopoly on these things. So they can just wake up one morning and say, you know what, screw the United States, let's turn this off, and we are asked out on getting certain things. It could happen. It has happened, matter of fact. So I just want you all to kind of be consciously aware of the threats that we are constantly under. These are national security threats, by the way. So don't be so. You have Americans. I put it like this: you have Americans that hate America, right? So, and you see their actions and you see their fruits of their labor. You have these rogue judges that are seeing that, hey, President Trump is actually trying to stop, the carnage here. And we want the carnage because we want to see America fail. We want to see America fall. So we're going to issue these random injunctions and everything else, telling him he can't do tariffs. He can't negotiate against other countries. Last time I checked, when you read Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States, the president has delineated powers to do certain things that the judicial branch cannot control, just the same as Congress. So, yeah, but I'm not going to jump on my soapbox. Folks, I'm going to jump up out of here. I hope y'all took away a lot of what we discussed today and found value in that, because it is very important information. And once again, I'm going to throw the book back up here. Please go pick it up, check it out. Land Rich Cash Poor. Let me blow it up a little bit bigger for you all, that for the visuals. Land Rich Cash Poor, My Family's Hope, and the Untold Story of the Disappearing American Farmer. by Brian Reisinger. And once again, that spelling is Reisinger. And pick it up and check it out, and support the gentleman out there making things happen for you. Also, I would say on that plug, you can support my book as well, coming out in early next year, sometimes, hopefully, God willing. But I am fundraising for that. GiveSendGo.com /book project 2025. Folks, I'm going to get up out of here. Like I said, I got a meeting to get to here in the next hour or so, and it's going to take me about an hour to get there. So I'm going to jump out of here, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Of course, today is Tuesday. I got interviews all this week, just about. So I will see you all tomorrow. God willing, God bless. Y'all be safe, and ciao, ciao. I hope you enjoyed today's program. You can follow, like, share, subscribe on Spotify, Substack, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and your news. And also, you can download Let the Truth Be Told app on your favorite streaming platforms, such as Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Roku. Take care. God bless.